They say honey is one of nature's purest foods, but before it reaches your breakfast table, it passes through an industrial process so advanced it feels more like a high-tech laboratory than a traditional honey farm. Behind massive stainless steel machines, thousands of gallons of golden honey are filtered, tested, blended, and packaged with incredible precision. So how do you preserve something made by millions of tiny bees without destroying what makes it natural? Today, we're going inside one of the world's most advanced honey factories to uncover every fascinating step. Over the next few minutes, you'll discover the journey that begins with millions of honeybees and ends with sealed jars in supermarket shelves across America, how raw honey is collected, why every batch is tested before sale, how giant filtration and filling machines handle thousands of jars with astonishing accuracy, and why even a small mistake could ruin an entire production run. Everything here is backed by scientific publications, beekeeping experts, and industry sources, separating myths from facts. Coming up, one of the most mesmerizing extraction processes you'll ever see, how factories keep honey flowing without damaging its quality, and a surprising truth about crystallized honey that most people misunderstand. By the end, you'll never look at a jar of honey the same way again. Honey seems almost magical, thick, golden, incredibly sweet, and somehow edible for years without spoiling. Archaeologists have found thousands of years old honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that was still safe to eat. What makes it so special? And how do factories handle something this delicate without ruining what makes it unique? To answer that, we start long before any machine switches on. Every jar begins with the honeybee. A worker bee flies from flower to flower collecting droplets of nectar, which looks like honey but couldn't be more different. Fresh nectar is around 70 to 80% water, and stored like that it would quickly ferment. So nature has a solution. As the bee flies home, enzymes in her honey stomach begin transforming the nectar, breaking complex sugars into simpler ones. Once she returns, the nectar passes bee to bee, almost like a relay, mixing in more enzymes. The transformation isn't finished either. Inside the hive, thousands of bees fan their wings at incredible speed, not to cool off, but to create airflow that evaporates water from the nectar until moisture drops to roughly 17 to 18%. What was once watery liquid becomes the thick, concentrated honey we recognize. Only then do bees seal each cell with a thin layer of beeswax, preserving it until needed. It's an astonishing process, one no factory has ever truly replicated. Yet despite this natural perfection, bees don't produce honey in neat little jars. It's stored inside thousands of tiny wax cells across wooden frames, and every drop must be removed while keeping its flavor, aroma, and purity intact. That's where modern production begins, not in a factory, but in the apiary. Rows of wooden hives stretch across fields, orchards, and wildflower meadows, and their location isn't chosen by chance. Surrounding flowers shape the honey's color, taste, and aroma. Clover honey is light and mild. Orange blossom carries citrus notes. Buckwheat becomes dark and bold. The flowers write the recipe. Beekeepers can't harvest whenever they want, though. They inspect each frame to check whether the honey is mature, since unfinished moisture reduction can cause fermentation in storage. That's why they look for capped combs. Once most cells are sealed with white beeswax, it's nature's signal that the honey is ready. Now comes one of the most delicate moments, separating the bees from the honey without harming them. Responsible commercial beekeepers don't destroy the hive after harvest. Instead, they use techniques that encourage bees to leave naturally, such as escape boards that let bees exit but not easily return, or gentle streams of air that move them off the frames. Minimizing stress on the colony matters, since healthy bees are essential not just for honey but for pollinating crops worldwide. The frames then travel to a clean extraction facility, where one step still relies on a mechanical process largely unchanged for generations. Each frame arrives covered in thousands of tiny wax caps that protected the honey inside the hive, and now they have to come off. Machines with heated blades or rotating uncapping combs glide across every frame, shaving away the wax seals in seconds and exposing the glistening honey-filled cells beneath. But gravity alone isn't enough. Honey still clings inside every hexagonal cell. So the uncapped frames go into massive stainless steel extractors resembling enormous washing machines, spinning slowly at first, then much faster. As speed increases, centrifugal force pushes honey outward from each cell. Instead of smashing the comb, the spinning gently pulls honey free while leaving the wax structure largely intact. So many frames can go back to the hive for bees to refill, instead of rebuilding from scratch, a real energy saver for the colony. Within minutes, rivers of golden honey collect along the extractor's walls before flowing into large holding tanks below. But the honey isn't ready for your kitchen yet. Tiny pieces of beeswax, pollen particles, and air bubbles are still mixed through it. Many are harmless, and some consumers prefer minimally filtered honey, but large-scale production demands consistency and strict quality control. This is where engineering takes over. The fresh honey travels through food-grade pipes into filtration systems designed to remove larger unwanted particles, while preserving as much natural character as possible. Some premium honeys are only lightly filtered, letting pollen grains remain. Others get finer filtration for the crystal clear look many shoppers expect. Filtration is only half the story. Here's the fact that confuses millions of people: crystallization. Many assume crystallized honey has gone bad, but that's usually a sign it's genuine. Pure honey naturally wants to crystallize. It's made mainly of fructose and glucose is less soluble, so over time it forms tiny crystals. Speed depends on the flowers behind the nectar, glucose content, storage temperature, and microscopic particles already in the honey. Some varieties stay liquid for months, others crystallize within weeks. So crystallized honey usually means it's real, not spoiled, and gently warming the jar in water dissolves the crystals without changing the flavor. Large producers know shoppers associate clear honey with freshness, even though the science says otherwise. That's why factories carefully control temperature throughout processing, not to cook the honey, but to keep it flowing efficiently and delay crystallization before it reaches shelves. Temperature management is one of the most critical stages in the factory. Honey is incredibly thick, so pumping it through pipes at room temperature would be slow and difficult, so it passes through temperature-controlled tanks and is gently warmed under close monitoring. Notice, gently. Excessive heat is one of honey's biggest enemies, destroying delicate aromas and breaking down natural enzymes. That's why facilities continuously monitor temperature and time, keeping honey close to its natural condition while still easy to process. Once it reaches proper consistency, quality control begins, and it's far more than a visual check. Every large batch is sampled and examined with scientific equipment. Technicians measure moisture content, since excess water allows fermentation, and check color, consistency, aroma, and density. Depending on regulations, labs may also screen for residues, contaminants, or adulteration, and some analyze pollen to verify botanical origin. Why so much testing? Because every harvest differs. Weather, flowers, rainfall, even neighboring farms influence nectar sources. No two harvests are identical, so factories constantly adjust to keep every jar consistent. Now imagine another challenge. One truck arrives with light clover honey, another with rich amber wildflower honey, a third with darker, stronger buckwheat honey. Should every batch be packaged separately? Sometimes, but many companies also create signature blends, combining batches in huge tanks to produce a flavor, color, and texture customers recognize year after year. Consistency built from careful planning, constant testing, and experience. Once a blend is approved, the honey moves to the packaging line. Storage tanks feed it through polished pipes into automated filling machines, while empty jars travel along high-speed conveyors, perfectly spaced as they reach the filling station. Each container pauses briefly. Precision nozzles descend, and within seconds every jar receives nearly the exact same amount, not too much and not too little, minimizing waste while giving customers exactly what they pay for. As each filled jar moves on, another machine places the lid and tightens it with carefully controlled torque. Too loose and air could enter, too tight and customers might struggle to open it. Next comes labeling. High-speed rollers wrap labels around every container, printing and checking product names, nutrition facts, batch numbers, and expiration dates automatically. Vision systems with high-resolution cameras then inspect thousands of jars an hour, catching crooked labels, missing caps, underfilled containers, or printing errors in a fraction of a second. And anything that fails is instantly pulled from the line without stopping the rest of the factory. Even after all those inspections, one final round of quality assurance takes place before a jar leaves the factory. Random samples are pulled and checked again. Technicians verify fill level, confirm every lid seals properly, match the label to the correct product, and ensure the honey still meets company standards. In many facilities, every batch can be traced back to the exact apiary, harvest date, and even the production line that filled it. Traceability that's essential if a problem is ever discovered. Only then are jars grouped into cartons, stacked on pallets by robotic systems, wrapped and shipped to climate-controlled warehouses, where thousands of jars wait to begin their final leg to supermarkets, restaurants, and eventually your kitchen. It's remarkable that tiny drops of nectar collected by individual bees become a product enjoyed by millions. But here's something even more fascinating. Despite all the sophisticated machinery, the factory never actually makes honey. Every conveyor, filter, lab instrument, and filler has one job: to preserve what the bees already created. That's a surprisingly important distinction. Unlike foods that are cooked, mixed, or chemically transformed inside factories, honey is fundamentally different. The bees have already done the hardest part, collecting nectar, transforming it with natural enzymes, reducing its moisture, and sealing it inside perfect hexagonal cells. The factory's job isn't to improve the honey, it's to protect it. That's why temperature is controlled so carefully, why moisture is measured, why every batch is tested, and why the packaging line is built to prevent contamination. That also clears up a common misconception, that massive tanks and high-speed lines somehow make honey artificial. In reality, the equipment isn't changing the honey into something else. It's doing what you do harvesting honey yourself, only with far greater precision and consistency. Not all honey products are identical, of course. Some producers filter lightly, leaving more pollen behind. Others filter finer for a clearer look. Some sell single-origin honey from one floral source. Others create balanced blends for a familiar taste year-round. Those differences don't make one better than another. They're simply different products for different preferences. One thing stays true across every genuine jar. Its story began long before it entered a factory, in fields bursting with wildflowers, in orchards buzzing with pollinators, and inside a hive where tens of thousands of bees work together with astonishing coordination. Think about the scale for a moment. A single honeybee produces only a tiny fraction of a teaspoon of honey in her entire lifetime. To produce just 1 pound of honey, bees collectively visit millions of flowers and fly a combined distance equal to several trips around the earth. When you look at a jar on a grocery shelf, it's easy to see only the finished product, not the countless flights, the changing seasons, the blooming flowers, the perfectly engineered honeycomb, the careful decisions of experienced beekeepers, and the technology working quietly to preserve every drop. It's the collaboration between nature and human engineering that makes modern honey production so extraordinary, and why honey has remained one of humanity's most treasured natural foods for thousands of years. So the next time you pick up a jar of honey, you'll know you're holding far more than a sweet golden liquid, the result of millions of flower visits, thousands of hours of tireless work by an entire bee colony, the expertise of dedicated beekeepers, and the precision of one of the most advanced food production systems in the world. Every stage, from the moment nectar leaves a flower to the instant a sealed jar reaches a store shelf, is built around one mission: protecting one of nature's most extraordinary creations. Perhaps the biggest surprise isn't how advanced today's honey factories have become, but that despite all the machinery, automated laboratories, and robotic packaging lines, the factory never replaces nature, it simply preserves it. The real master engineers have been the bees all along, refining this process for millions of years before humans ever built a machine. That's what makes honey so remarkable. It's one of the rare foods where cutting-edge technology and the natural world don't compete, they work together. One provides the miracle, the other protects it. If you enjoyed discovering the hidden science and engineering behind everyday products, make sure to subscribe and join us for more fascinating factory tours from around the world. Until next time, thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the most extraordinary factories don't create nature's wonders. They simply help bring them safely from the hands of nature to yours.